$200, a Super Nintendo setup costs twice as much as the old system. For the money, the company promises better pictures, sound, and adventure. Now you're playing with power, superpower. You're the king, I tell you! The king!
Only for Super NES. You're listening to the SNES broadcast with your hosts, Soulblazer and George.
Hello, everybody. This is the Super NES podcast, episode number 127 this time. I am Greg. He is George, your faithful co-host, as always.
That's me.
And this time we're looking at another one of George's picks, another Japanese-only game. But a very interesting game with a kind of an interesting history. So, what game do you want to look at this time, George?
Mario no Super Picross, or came out somewhat recently. Over here is, I believe, just Mario Super Picross.
Yeah, it's interesting about that. We're going to get into that here in a little bit. Because what I saw online is that the game originally came out in Japan only in 1995. It did eventually get a PAL Virtual Console release. I never saw any mention of it being released in North America, however.
Right.
Which is very strange. It's like PAL got it, but we didn't. Like what? But anyway. So I knew about the Picross series, but I only had, but I never had played it before this. Did you have some experience like the games, George? Is that why you wanted to pick it?
So the reason why I picked this was because I somewhat recently started playing, I believe it's Picross 3 on the Game Boy.
Okay.
Which is, I believe, a Japanese only title. And I never really played Picross before. So it was like, what the heck is this? And played it, it's like, oh, this is pretty cool. And then I realized that, oh, hey, there's some Picross stuff on the Super Famicom. Let's do it. So here we are.
Right. Right. So, this is a very interesting game. I kind of figured that maybe the best way to handle this might be to talk about, because the very first Picross game came out for the Game Boy a short time before this one. Since the game,
we should probably talk about what Picross is in the first place.
Exactly, I was going to say. So let's talk about the Game Boy Picross first, because that's where it was introduced. And after that, I can just talk about the differences between it and Super NES one, which is like pretty not many differences between the two games. So
yes and no. We'll get into that.
Right. So Picross came out in 1995. Both the Game Boy, both the Game Boy and the Super NES follow-up. The game was developed by two companies working together. Two very famous companies. Ape Incorporated, which is now known as Creatures Incorporated.
Yes.
Ape's the company behind the Mother series. And also one's responsible for producing many of the Pokemon games. And also, curiously enough, they also released a Japanese only version of Monopoly twice. So I'm interested. So I'm interested. I'm interested to check that out, because I'm going like, all right.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, me neither. So, Ape Incorporated goes back to 1989. They were dissolved in 1995 because of like problems with management, money, that kind of stuff. But the company almost immediately reorganized with a lot of former staff from Ape as Creatures Incorporated in November 1985. They're still going strong today. So, good company, pretty good track record. Their games are all pretty solid. So, their most recent release was, of course, the Detective Pikachu game, which the movie was based off of.
Yes.
So, but also helping to make Picross was a company called Jupiter Corporation, which I'd never heard of. But looking at their games, they've also worked on quite a lot of good games. Jupiter was founded back in 1992. It also, like Creatures, is still around today. Most of their games did not get released in North America. However, they do have some games like the Game Boy Camera, for example, was theirs. That was their project. So
yes,
Pokemon Pinball, which is also a very good pinball game, is also developed by them. So, they also worked with like Square on a number of their games. They helped Square develop, for example, Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, like the GBA. They helped.
Oh yeah.
They helped Square like the World Ends with You on the DS. So, and they're more heavily involved these days with the Picross series than Creatures is. Creatures mostly focuses upon the Pokemon games these days. So like Creatures still has some rights, it looks like, to the earlier Picross games, but every modern Picross game has been developed by Jupiter. So. And Nintendo, of course, the publisher, because it's the publisher of the series, because it features Mario. So
yeah.
Nintendo back in these days was not as strict about licensing out Mario as they are these days. There were a lot of I don't want to call them knockoffs, just kind of like cash grabs, almost seem like, where like Mario's face would appear, Mario's face and image would appear on things like toothbrushes, shower heads,
like everything.
We'll
just
pretty much, yeah.
Everything,
right?
Because that's pretty accurate.
Yeah, and Nintendo still licenses Mario out these days. They're just a lot more careful doing it. Especially when it comes to games. So it's like. This is also a time of like Mario Hotel and Mario Teaches Typing and the games like that too. And also Zelda and some other other franchises Nintendo that they've licensed out, like Mario Will We Know You back in these days. But so anyway, Picross is a modified version. It's a modified version of an older puzzle, which is known as a nonogram. With some differences to accommodate the Game Boy, of course. And the game itself, the Picross puzzle, it's a little bit hard to explain. I'll try my best. George, feel free to hop in here to help. I know where you want to, but essentially, Picross game, you are given a puzzle grid. The size of which depends upon the difficulty that you're using, and also the platform that the game's on. For the Game Boy version, for example, the puzzles were either 5x5, 10x10, or 15x15 spaces size. So, you were given numerical hints on both the horizontal and the vertical sides of the screen. The objective is you have a hammer. You want to chisel away certain tiles in the correct order to be able to expose a puzzle. To be able to expose a picture that's underneath.
This is cleverly called Picross because you're making a picture and you're cross-examining numbers to help you mark the right spots.
Exactly, right. So,
yes.
So the numbers...
kind of like a crossword in a sense.
Yeah, it's...
But with like pixels.
Yeah, right, exactly. So, so it definitely has its roots. It definitely had the puzzle definitely has its roots like in like crossword variant. So,
yeah.
So the numbers will tell you, like hints as to what tiles you want to choose away at that particular like row or column that they're in. If it's one number, a single number tells you, how many spaces you need to chisel in that row or column period. If it's more than one number, that tells you basically, that tells you kind of the approximate location of it, with the numbers in between. But that number will tell you how many blank spaces are between chiseled puzzles. Chiseled tiles. For example,
that's not true. It doesn't tell you how many blank spaces there are.
No. It tells you how many blank spaces are in between each chisel tile. For example, if we have a column and it has numbers 2, 4, 1, 2, it tells you that tells you're going to have a chisel, you're going to either have a chisel spot and then two blank tiles, or two blank tiles and then chisel tile, and then you're going to have like 4 blanks, chisel tile, 1 blank, chisel tile, 2 blanks.
That's not true at all, Greg. All the numbers that are there are how many you mark. So like if it's like 2, 4, 2, there's 2, then there's going to be some space somewhere, at least one space because it can't be all together. 4, and then another space of how many, and then 2. It never marks how many blank tiles there's going to be. If it ever marks that there's going to be blank tiles, that row or column's going to be a 0. Otherwise, if there's a number, that means it has to be filled in that many times.
Well, sorry. Like I said before, it is a bit hard to explain. The picture of the puzzle that I have here as reference definitely shows that. Like 2 blanks tile, 4 blanks tile, 1 blank
right,
tile.
But they never mark, other than zeros. They never mark how many blanks there are.
Unless you actually have the row column finished, they don't tell you how many that there are there.
Well, yeah, if you finish the row or column, you're gonna. Because the other part of this is also marking it the other way.
I was gonna get
what
that.
you want to do, So what you want to do is, let's say you have, let's say it's a 5x5, and there's a row that's marked 5. You'll mark that 5, and then let's say you cross reference it with a column that has a 1. Okay, so you know that you already filled in that 1. So what you do is you mark it the other way to mark them as all blank in the rest of that column.
Right. Yep.
It helps a lot. Like, honestly, it helps a lot to mark the ones that you should not chisel.
Exactly.
Because then you reference it with everything else, and it's like,
right.
Okay, so it should go here. Sometimes there are parts where you're gonna have to guess, and when you're playing through Mario's puzzles, that might hurt you. On Wario's puzzles, it's gonna hurt you, but it's not. There's no time limit.
Right.
We talk about the differences between that later.
Yep. So, marking off which spaces not to chisel is critical, because it's that combined with the hints that the game gives you for the numbers on both the rows and columns. Tell you like which they give you enough information to be able to figure out which ones to chisel. So and so once you finish chiseling away all the pieces, you're given a reward. The picture's shown to you with the glory, and you move on to the next puzzle. You have 30 minutes to finish each puzzle. If you incorrectly chisel a space by accident, you lose time. How much time you lose depends upon how many errors you've already committed.
Again, you only lose that in the Mario puzzles.
Right. Yep. Yeah. Just using the Game Boy version for as an example. Your first error, you lose 2 minutes. Second error, 4 minutes. The third.
Yeah,
third
multiplies it by 2 every time. Yep.
But the third error, the third error is 8 minutes. After that though, it's just 8 minutes. So.
Yeah, but if you keep making mistakes, you're gonna run out of time. You're not gonna be able to get past those 8 minutes.
Right.
So.
There's also a with hint option available to you at the start of the puzzle if you want to use it.
Yes.
Which will really help. So, the Game Boy Mario's Picross had a whopping 256 puzzles in it, which is like, damn, that'll take you a long time to go through those puzzles.
And I think this one has 300 or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
368, I think, or something like that. But so the puzzles, you'll again talk about the Game Boy version. The puzzle is separated into four modes. The start of the game, you pick the start of the game. 3 of those are available to you with Easy Picross mode, Kikino mode, and Star mode. 64 puzzles available in each. They all play the same. It's just as you advance, the difficulty increases for each one. The grade gets bigger. that kind of stuff. So, if you finish the other 3 modes, then time trial becomes available to you, which is like the ultra super expert mode of the game with 64 puzzles in that one also. Time trial basically has you with like an unlimited game time, but it does not show it does not show you the player like we made mistakes. So definitely makes it like a lot more difficult. The Mario's Picross on the Game Boy was also very notable for having like a very good music selection. There was like a wide selection like music to pick from, and you could also choose which track to listen to as you played through the game.
Yep.
So, the game was developed by Jupiter and Ape working together, as I mentioned before, because puzzle games are very popular in Japan at the time period. And Picross really seemed
They're still pretty popular.
Yep. So the game was released worldwide that same year. It did very well in Japan, and Nintendo tried hard to make the game successful here in North America. There were television commercials, a contest run through Nintendo Power, other stuff like that. For various reasons, however, the game simply did not sell well, not only in North America but in Europe also. It really did not do very well outside of Japan. So, because of that, the next several Picross games, including the Super NES one, which we'll talk about here in a moment, did not get to release outside of Japan. I'm not exactly sure why the game failed over here. I can think of some educated guesses. One of them is that even though the Game Boy is an ideal platform for a puzzle game because there are a lot of puzzle games available on the Game Boy, the graphics are very limiting on the Game Boy, to be honest. So, I mean, because it's like there's no color. I mean, you only have you only have shades like of gray and white. So a lot of the reviewers, I'll talk about the reviews of the game in a moment. A lot of the reviewers touched upon the graphics and the graphics just how bland and lackluster that they were on the game. So the platform probably didn't help too much. Also, puzzles really had not taken off here in North America yet at the time period. We really wouldn't start to see over here the wide scale success of things like super crosswords and like Sudoku and Sudoku until the early 2000s. So,
yeah,
I think probably the game was just a little bit too early as far as the puzzle trend goes. So
we weren't smart enough to do puzzles yet. It's true.
Right.
If you attend American history class, you'll learn that.
The next game. So it wasn't until Picross DS in 2007 that the Picross game finally got released outside of Japan again. And this time the market was right. The game did very, very successful. And every Picross game, because of that, every Picross game since then has come out here in the West as well. So.
Yep.
So I've not played.
There's
Picross.
A lot of Picross games.
There is, yes. Picross DS, the DS I've not played, but I have friends who played it. It's like very, very good. So
I want to play it. Yeah.
So, but the Game Boy Mario's Picross game has also gotten re-released, re-released worldwide on the 3DS Virtual Console, so you can play the game that way too if you want to.
Not just that, also the Wii U, and I think it was on the Wii before that was shut down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
So Mario's Picross got very mixed reviews. It came out here in the West. Just to give like one example of it. EGM, their 4 reviewers. They ended up giving the game, like an average of 5.12 out of 10. So, not very high marks at all. Basically, they complained about they complained about the puzzles themselves. The puzzles were not very creative. They're creative and got boring after a while. So, GamePro didn't give it a much better higher marks. Just graphics being disappointing. And they also commented upon the fact that even though it's a Mario themed game and Mario does appear on the screen, there's no there's no Mario or Mario Friends is used for any of the pictures, which is like, huh? But you're gonna have Mario. Yeah, so you're gonna have Mario.
Yeah, I mean, this is an era where over here is totally different from Japan, because Japan, yeah, like
Right.
Mario's in everything. Over here, it's
Right.
like, oh, Mario's in it. There's should be Mario stuff. What? There's not Mario stuff in it? This game's automatically bad. Like, what? But you gotta remember, it's a different era where they
Of course, yeah.
don't fully understand that. Yeah.
I should also mention also real quick, because George and I were talking this like off mic before the podcast started. Both the Game Boy games and also Super NES one were single player only. They did they did not introduce multiplayer mode into Picross until Picross DS. So and I think this game would be a lot of fun to play multiplayer.
Don't know how you play multiplayer though.
Let me look it up. Let me look it up like real quick. To see how this works.
Do 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 do.
It looks like that it's a looks like it's a that's a cooperative feature, at least in the original DS one. So
That sounds awesome.
also very cool about the DS version, you were able to make your own puzzles, like them to your friends.
Oh, well, damn.
So that's like multiplayer part of it too. So, but
That's pretty cool.
so anyway, as I mentioned before, Picross did well enough in Japan that very rapidly they made two sequels. One of them was also for the Game Boy, just simply called Picross 2. And the other was Mario Super Picross, which is the game we're covering in this podcast, which came out later on, which came out really the same year as the original game. That got released in Japan September 1985. The game is essentially the same as the Game Boy one, with some added with some notable additions and updates. Obviously, being higher resolution, the grids, there's colors, the graphics are better, the puzzles are bigger. A lot of people also consider the puzzles of the Super Nintendo version to be harder than the Game Boy version, because of that. So you're also able to play as Wario as well.
You don't play as them. You do his puzzles.
Right. It's like, it's a little bit hard to explain. It's like, it's a different set of puzzles with Wario available to you as opposed to like Mario.
So the difference between the way that the Mario puzzles play out is like we've explained before, where you have a time limit, and if you make a mistake, you lose time. And it automatically, when you make a mistake, it automatically marks off that area when you try it. In the Wario puzzles, however, the time goes up. Does not tell you if you make a mistake, so you're basically all on your own on that. And some of the puzzles are kind of trolly as well.
Right, yeah,
like
exactly.
The first one is literally just a dot in the middle of the screen, but it's inverted. So you gotta basically fill that out, except for like one pixel. It's something, alright. It's something.
Being a Japanese game, they use Japanese symbols for a lot of the puzzles. A
lot of the earlier ones and some of the like mid-game ones, they do that. Yeah.
They also use Greek levels. Like Greek letters for some reason too, which is like, huh? But like whatever. So, the background. How can I say this? The background's still black and white. It becomes colored animated once you actually finish the puzzle and shows you the picture. So,
this game's got like a hidden artifact theme.
Right.
So you uncover the picture and it's got this kind of ominous music.
Right.
And then it's like, hey, you found this thing! Hey, congratulations! Next puzzle.
Right.
Yeah. the one on Game Boy that I'm playing through kind of has a similar uh, theme to it as well. So
Yeah, so like and playing as Wario also gives you the playing as Wario is different enough to to give its own like set of challenges and fun factor to it because for example Wario's puzzles, the time counts up from 0 instead. And you're not penalized for making you're not penalized for making a mistake, but you're also not told if you do make a mistake. So
oh, weird. It's like I've already said this before.
Yeah, sorry, just wanted to like add it on.
It's all right. It's all right.
But like like I said, it's a little bit confusing to talk about this game because it's like one of those games. It's one of those games that makes more sense actually like watching in action as opposed to like talking about it. So
on top of that, they also, I think when you finish all the puzzles, they have Mario and Wario have EX levels, I think.
They do. Yep. Yes. So
yeah,
Mario also will give you like a small little like encouragement for every puzzle that you finish. You'll either like bow or give you a thumbs up. So nice touch.
Yep.
But curiously enough, this game, Mario Super Picross, was made available. Was made available like on the Wii and the Wii U Virtual Console in Japan, of course. But they also made it available in PAL regions. Not translated, so they were, so the original Japanese version
Wait,
of the game.
really?
Yes, but
why?
The same reason why it was not available in North America, I guess. It's like who knows, but it's like, because it was part of a, it was part of something called the Hanabi Festival, where they made a whole bunch of like Japanese only games available in PAL region on the Virtual Console. So
why didn't they do that for the US?
I have no idea. So, but
what the heck?
So, anyway, and both those servers are down. Yeah, and both those console servers are down now. So
yeah.
So the only way to play the game now is if you want to like emulate it, or if you want to like pick up a copy.
It's so easy to emulate, so it doesn't even really matter.
The game's actually pretty. Yeah, the game's actually pretty cheap too to pick up if you want an actual physical copy. We'll get to that here in a little bit, but so I was surprised to see how cheap the game was. But so we were talking about the graphics, they're not great, but they're good. They're functional. They get the job done. It's a puzzle game. I mean, you don't expect great, great graphics for a puzzle game. So, the music.
Mario and Wario look pretty good.
They do. Yep. So
that's like the only thing you really need to worry about, because otherwise it's just Picross.
The pictures when you win the pictures like when you win a puzzle like look very good also, but because it's a Japanese game, a lot of the pictures are like, what the heck is this? But because you don't really understand like what it is.
Yeah, some of them are hard. Like I don't know, because I don't know if there's a translated version of this other than the like game you'd have to buy.
I don't think so, because this is definitely also like a cult only game as far as that goes.
Yeah, so like there are times where it's just like, what am I even making here? And then you'll look at the final product and it's like, oh wait, it's a sailboat. I get it. Or you just use Google Translate like I did.
Right.
Like, oh wait, that's supposed to be that's supposed to be a thing. Okay.
I also, sorry if I forgot to mention this. This is actually kind of important. The game also supports the mouse.
What? Does it?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh.
Yep.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yep. So,
no reason to use the mouse, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, like, probably helps. Yeah.
I think I make more mistakes with the mouse than the controller.
Really? I don't know.
I probably clicked the wrong thing.
Yeah, I guess maybe, but
I already clicked the wrong thing when I'm playing with the controller. I don't need to do that more often.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is pretty easy to do that. You really got to be careful. Careful that you're on the right space. The DS version of the game, for example, you're able to use the stylus to select your spot, which makes it a lot easier to control. But the music in this game, I think it's like a mixed bag. It's a very good soundtrack. Like, don't get me wrong. The problem is that you hear so much of it as you play the game, like it's very like like repetitive to you after a while.
You can change the music and
You can, but still,
all that stuff.
the number of tracks available to you is like pretty limited. So
Yeah, there's only I think 3 for each. So like 3 for Mario, 3 for Wario. I don't know. I think
Right.
it's some good music though.
Oh yeah, it's good music. Just like it kind of gets like boring after a while because like if you play the game for a while, you're gonna be like, ugh, I'm so sick of hearing this.
That's why you watch YouTube in the background.
Yeah, no, you don't because you need to concentrate. Some of these puzzles, some of these puzzles are, ugh. Like like I watch people beat them online and so going like, how the hell did you figure out how to solve that? So,
I don't know. That's what I've been doing. I've been watching YouTube in the background.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just because I find puzzles difficult to begin with. But there's some very, this game is definitely very, very challenging for me. There's definitely some very like challenging puzzles.
Yeah.
I had a lot easier time playing the Game Boy version as opposed to this one, for example. So, the puzzles version like are definitely harder.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a pretty unique game, though, having said that. Anybody who enjoys Picross definitely should check this out, because, like, Japan only, everybody missed it probably, so, it's like, it's more of the same for them, but it's also like, it's also like different. With like, different gameplay, different puzzles and that kind of stuff. If you're new to Picross, I would not recommend starting off with this one. I think that the Picross DS game for 2007 is probably the best one to start off with, because that has a lot of like beginners modes and like hand-holding help you like get used to the game and the puzzles. So, if you are an intermediate expert player, however, by all means check this out because there's some very like good challenging puzzles here.
Yeah.
Downsides. Well, we already talked about most of the. We already talked about most of the downsides. Graphics are limited. Puzzles are very difficult.
It's in Japanese.
Yeah, it's in Japanese. Yep, that's another one. Fine control can be a problem sometimes. Gotta be careful to make sure that you're picking the right spot. Beyond that, it's fine. I mean, it's a very good puzzle game as far as the actual format goes. So, this is kind of the game I think kind of work. This is kind of a game I think I would prefer to play on the go on a handheld system as opposed to like sitting down for a console. But that's just me.
Maybe it is. Maybe it is just you.
But how would you prefer to play this, George? Like, handheld version, like a console version?
That's a good question. I don't know. I never played it handheld, so I don't know. I just basically played it like console version.
Yeah,
I think handheld would be pretty cool though.
Yeah. Puzzle games work very well. Like handhelds. So.
They have Picross on the Switch, so
Yep.
you can get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I suppose that's true.
Yeah. You prefer playing it handheld? There you go. You prefer playing it as a console? There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, what's strange is the fact how they came up with these 3 games in the 90s, and in the series, like for 10 years, they didn't do anything with the series. And then all of a sudden, 2007, they come up with Picross DS, and then crank out the games ever since then.
Yep, and there's Pokemon Picross, and there's Picross, and I don't know. There's a lot out there, though, honestly.
Right, there is.
Yeah. I think there's Picross knockoffs, too.
There are, yes.
I think on the phone, you could probably find some.
Right. Yeah, there's also... there's kind of like 3 main... series / spin-offs of this Picross games these days. You have the Picross 3D games, which are 3D reimaginings of the original game. You have the E series, which is available on 3DS, and you also have the S series, which is available on Switch. So, one of a cool thing that this game actually the game actually had. And I was not aware of this peripheral. Until I started doing research on it. There was a peripheral available for Super NES in Japan only, which is known as which actually was called like Nintendo Power, not to be confused with the magazine. It was a flash ROM cartridge that supported both Super NES and the Game Boy. It basically was a flash cartridge that you could download games onto it for cheaper prices, and then plug it into your system and play the games that way.
Oh yeah, it's kind of like those cartridges for like Famicom or whatever. You go to like a convenience store or whatever, and they would have a machine, and you pay money, and it puts the game on the blank cartridge.
Yeah, very similar to that. There was a Japanese only dedicated server which you would use to download the download games onto it. It was only available for a year and a half. It only ran from 1999 to 2000 in Japan.
Japan is so ahead of its own time. It's scary.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it really is. So there was a Picross game that came out. The Picross game that came out for that. There was also the seven other games that are available were also played off of very common big Nintendo franchises. There's also available Pokemon game, Yoshi's Story, Kirby, Star Fox, Legend of Zelda, Super Mario, Wario Land, and Donkey Kong Country.
Sounds about right.
So, yeah, pretty cool. So, and also, as a side note, Mario has a very distinctive outfit, like these games. Kind of explorer he reminds me of. I'm not really sure.
Like it's more like a not architect. What the hell am I thinking? Like an excavator.
Yeah, that would work too. Maybe like an archaeologist, but
archaeologist is the word I was thinking of.
Anyway,
not architect. Idiot.
That's okay. I just mentioned it real quick because that outfit's available as a unlockable costume for Mario to wear in Super Mario Odyssey.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So, but
a lot of costumes. You can make them look like Waluigi.
Yep, that's true too. So, right. So,
pretty good game.
Yeah. So, yep. So that's Super Mario Picross for you. Hopefully we did a decent job explaining the game. It's kind of a hard game to explain verbally. I mean, once you actually watch somebody play, you pick up the idea of pretty quick. But anybody who enjoys puzzle games definitely should check this out, especially if a Picross fan. But if you want the game, a physical copy of it, it's pretty cheap to get actually, which is surprising because most of the copies, most of these copies are coming from Japan. Being Japanese only game, there's not many sellers in North America who have the game available for sale. For example, at the time I'm looking at this in August of 2019. North American sellers had listed 3 copies of this game for sale already in the U.S. Card only. None of them had sold recently, and no CIB copies of the game had either been sold or were listed on eBay. Those three U.S. already cart versions of the game sold anywhere from $9 to $13, which is not bad. However, if you're willing to wait, it's probably coming to you from the Slowbone in China. You can get a Japanese version of the. Well, obviously they're all Japanese. A version of the game from Japan, from Japanese sellers on eBay, starting, including shipping, starting for as little as $3.
Wow.
So depending upon, if you're willing to wait a few weeks, you definitely can save some money. So, even CIB for Japan, this game's not that expensive. The game CIB sold anywhere from $7 to $40. So, not a very expensive game to pick up.
Maybe I'll pick this up at some point.
yeah. I mean, you know, like you can either have a modded Super NES to play it on, or you can also get like one of the clone systems like a Retcon to play it on. So, yeah, pretty cheap. Yeah, pretty cheap. Yeah, pretty cheap game to pick up.
Yeah, I think I might pick that up at some point.
So yeah, so I'm definitely curious. I'm definitely curious to play like Picross DS after all this, because I think it being an easier version of the game, I might have more success with it. I do admit I got frustrated with this game because it's like very, very difficult after a while. So, but then again, I'm just not very good at puzzle games. So
maybe.
But so yeah, so definitely fun. So definitely fun to check out. Thank you for bringing this to the table, George.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else you want to say about it? Final thoughts? Like, what do you think about the game? That kind of stuff.
It's good. Play it. It's fun.
Okay. So next time on the podcast, we are looking at an obscure game, for sure, on the system, but one that has one that definitely has, but a game definitely has become a cult favorite, like recent years, as people discover how good the game is. We're going to be covering a little known, and actually I'm pretty sure very little title produced game of Super NES, which is called like Nosferatu, which is kind of a combination Prince of Persia meets Castlevania meets like Final Fight game. So it's a very interesting game. I've already played some of it. It's pretty good. I honestly don't know what George would think about it. Kind of depends upon.
Can we just play Picross again?
Not on this podcast, because the podcast, we know that, because no other games came up with Super NES for it. But and this being Picross being a Nintendo published franchise, it was only available on Nintendo systems. So, but anyway, so we're gonna be shedding some light on this game on next episode, and seeing why it's so obscure and why it's why it's become a cult favorite in recent years. So, want to thank everybody for taking time to listen to the podcast. If you have any questions, feedback, game suggestions, that kind of stuff, you can either find us on my Facebook page, or you can also feel free to send me an email to the SNESpodcast@yahoo.com. We also have a Patreon available at www.patreon.com/the SNES podcast. I wish to thank at this time Chad, David, Corey, and Seven for being backers of the podcast, the podcast from Patreon. So thank you very much, guys. For little as $1 a month, you can get a shout out to the episode just right here. Or for high tiers, you also can get access to the feed early, or be able to pick games for us to play. So many thanks again for our backers for your support. George, where can people contact you at?
If you use Twitter, that's a thing. I'm on there. My handle is at _Derpkin_. That is at _DERPKITTEN_, and that's about it.
So thank you again very much for joining us, and it's like Mario didn't really have too much to do in this game. Nintendo's definitely playing upon name recognition to help sell this. So, yay for marketing.
Yay for marketing.
Yes. So anyway, thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it. Take care.
Bye.
Nintendo controls 80% of the video market. But no matter how you play the game, or which game you play, things definitely have come a long way since Pac-Man. Now you're playing with power. Super power.